Anyway, that's our biggest struggles, really, basically, is weeds to put on top of the nematode situation. But anyway, this has probably been here a year. We're just sort of experimenting with the plastic scene. It's a mixed bag. It's hard to fertilize. I'm not really set up for irrigation through my drip system here. But when I plant a new plant, I'll make a hole and come back and fill it in with nematode-free compost, or weed-free compost. Plus and minuses. I'm not going to expand it, but
you have nematode problem with vegetable. I have with citrus trees.
Well, again, different vegetables have different susceptibilities. Yeah. So the brassicas seem to be pretty good, but lettuces or parsley, stuff like that, I wouldn't plant them in here, basically, anymore. Because at some point I'll have to rip this up and recover crop it and move it over to another scene. But anyway, we've been trying that for a while. Here's pretty typical of what can happen when you don't do your first tillage.
Is that you do it like a stale seed bed where you let the weeds grow and then
I think this came out of a cover crop.
Yeah.
And then it's all about getting people on the wheel hose and the hula hose and getting it at the right time.
Yeah.
So now I have to come back, and we've had something going on. These guys. We've had some aphid things, and then whether we're getting a boron problem in here or just something's happening on these guys. So this has been sort of a flop. But we're stuck here because we got some crop that we don't, so we're not going to till it all in, and I don't know.
Can I take a look?
What do you think?
I don't know. Yeah, it looks like it could be hollow heart, yeah?
Yeah. So whether that's a boron situation?
It's a symptom of boron deficiency.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Yeah.
And then the aphids come in, and then...
Is boron hard to absorb at that high pH?
Yeah, so a lot of the metals, iron, manganese, boron, depending on the soil type, will be less available at higher pH.
So then would you use a spray, like on leaf?
Yeah, so there's a horticulture, there's a OMRI-listed, NOP compliant, well, there's probably a few products, but in Hawaii there's a couple products that you can access for micronutrients. For certified organic though, if you're going to apply micronutrients, you have to show a deficiency in the soil. Because you can build, some of those micros can be toxic at higher levels, and so that's why they want to see that there's a deficiency.
In the past, we've been doing a soluble granular just a little bit when we were doing the other fertilizers. We haven't done a subsequent test, and we haven't done any tissue on that, and nobody had the supply between Wahoo and Kauai for a while, so I just sort of waited on that.
Right on.
Isn't it true that the boron leaches out of the soil real easily, along with the calcium? And so whenever you add calcium, you add just a trace, some ratio of boron to keep it, because I don't think it stays in the soil. I think it leaches.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I know calcium.
I didn't think that boron typically leached, but I'm not a soil scientist.
I'm not sure either. That's why I brought up. I thought maybe.
Well, and what I was telling Ned, I mean, tissue testing is a good way to do it too, because it kind of tells you. I mean, soil testing is important, especially if you have severe deficiencies. You'll catch them ahead of time, because once you see symptoms, you've already kind of screwed the pooch for that particular crop. You've already lost yield, even though you address it later. But really, the tissue testing will tell you what's happening in the, if it's adequate or not. And so there's a lot of data on the tissue testing. So that's also one we usually recommend in addition to soil testing. We've closed, UH had closed their soil and tissue testing for a while. We're in the process of reopening. Yeah, yeah.
You know, a problem with doing brassicas too is in your cover crops, perhaps you're propagating more disease. Because I mean, kale is a big deal around here.
Right, and the white butterflies. So one of the recommendations for folks who rely heavily on brassicas is to maybe swap out the brassica with buckwheat as the nurse crop broadleaf.
Yeah. So I just had some extra seeds. I was just
Yes, no, it's good.
doing whatever here. Okay, so here we go. I don't know. We'll go at some point. We'll circle back to what we were doing before.
自然のさ、やつ全部自然のバランスもっとオーガニックな色もついてる今さ、ねもっとこう昔さ
Okay, so eventually we'll end the tour where I just did the burn and stuff like that. But what I did here was I have a collection flail mower where once I pulled my charcoal or my biochar out, I could run over it with the tractor, and it would put it into a bin that I could dump where I wanted to dump. So I just dumped it and got it into this. This was inspired by doing Jadam stuff, you know, so you soak your weeds or whatever like that. And for years it had been down because we'd done the liner route, but rats would tend to get under there and make holes and everything would drain out. So this time we did it concrete and did a good floor on it. So I put it in here. Then at BEI they had some humic acid, humegas. So I put like 20 gallons of that because I knew that was acidic. I have molasses left over from when they were draining the tank down by the port. So I've got totes and totes of molasses. So I was pouring molasses in here. And EM, I had some EM brewed up and a jug of EM. So I just put that in here. And then a couple scoops of compost, the last of my compost pot. And so that's what was in here. And then soaking for, I don't know, a week or plus. And then it, you know, the pH looks like it's about 7, somewhere around there, of the liquid here that I pumped into these totes to try to get so I can shovel this out. I'm not going to do this again for now, but this is the first go around. And then from there.
And then are you using this as like a foliar? Or
Well, I'll use that to re-inoculate piles with biochar. Yeah.
got it. Okay.
So
Not just because of your high pH in the soil, you want to slow down on the biochar application.
yeah,
If you are making it, give it away, sell it. But in your soil, because of your high pH, you don't want to push it up more.
try not to.
Tested it lately, the pH recently?
Well,
but the fact that that's a 7, does that mean that it's actually not as bad?
This is 7, but then how much biochar are you adding there?
to this,
Yeah.
that had probably at least 6 yards.
See, over time, you are accumulating that high pH. You don't want to, because you're starting with a high soil pH, you don't want to push it more up. And pH will do that.
Right.
Sorry, biochar will do that.
Oh, so even
Even
if
if
you
it's
soak
been
it,
inoculated?
Yes, it doesn't matter.
doesn't
That
matter.
biochar has 9+ pH,
9+.
and when you have over 7, you are pushing it up more.
So why is this coming out at 7 when I did the liquid?
It's still the process, right? And you are measuring what's in the liquid.
Okay. So if I ground that up with water, would that give me an indication of the acidity of that? I mean, that alkalinity of that mix?
Now see, you are measuring what's in the solution, correct?
Yeah.
It's you are not there is an equilibrium here. That's why it's different. But keep adding biochar. Biochar doesn't go. Biochar is not a fertilizer. It's not gonna break down that easily. So that properties is gonna stick around in the soil after the application. It's different from some nutrient that they will be uptaken by the soil or leached down or volatilize into the air. Some of it. But biochar will stick around. So over time, you are adding more and more biochar into the soil. You are pushing up and up more the pH.
And the biochar, it holds on to the cations. It improves your cation exchange capacity, and it sort of slows them down from leaching out of the soil. So it keeps them there where the plants want them, right?
That's correct. But also, too much of it, there will be too much holding too.
Oh, you could have too many nutrients.
That's why we did a study on the application rate of biochar. You don't want to add more than 2% of your soil weight.
But I thought
And that's roughly 5 tons per acre of biochar. More than that, there will be too much holding, lesser release, and you don't want that.
Less availability.
Less availability for the plant. I had a trial with 0, 5, and 10 tons. The 5 and 10 were better than no, but the 5 was better than the 10. So not always more is better.
Right. There's an optimal point if we would know what it is.
Mulch with
Traffic grounds.
ironwood needles.
Some one is
Seriously, cover your fields in iron, it's right here.
byproducts. Those will lower down the pH.
I have another comment though. I think his pH is really high here because I was around here when they fertilized all this stuff, and the soil was so acid that they went overboard on adding the calcium carbonate.
Ned was telling me.
Yeah, but I think over time that does leach out. I mean, over time it should change.
Still, he's seeing the boron issues. So
Yeah.
it's still up to now. Still, there is an impact.
But also, there's no boron in the soil anyway. So even if you have a pH of 6, you still have boron deficiency if you don't have boron in your soil.
Because yes. So it depends. That's
Because
why
I get boron deficiencies at my farm, and I'm at pH 5.
what we ask right now, Ned, is to do the soil analysis.
Yeah.
That will be a good point to indicate because his data is about 2 years old.
So can you buffer that? Can you buffer that high pH in the biochar by just adding elemental sulfur or something, or is that allowed in the organic standard?
Sometimes the idea is, if you have good soil condition, why do you need to add biochar?
Right.
So there is, yes, biochar is good, okay, that's fine. But also, if there is a need for it, I would go spend the energy and the money on it.
Yeah.
But if my soil is doing good,
Right.
I can spend the money on something else.
Right.
So
Part
it
of it, I
really,
think,
really
is-
depends on the needs.
Part of it, I think, is that you're trying to use your waste wood that you're trimming off your trees, right?
Make it and sell it.
Yeah.
Make some kala out of it. What do they say? Money is not everything. Money is the only thing.
You know, one of the reasons,
I'm kidding.
one of the good reasons for adding biochar is that our soils here are highly weathered soils, and they have almost zero clay particles. So they have
Correct.
almost no cation exchange capacity. Everything goes through. So we add the biochar for us here. This helps way more than if you're in the Midwest and you got beautiful soil. It's not going to do anything for
That's
you, but
true.
here it can make a big difference.
When I was driving down here, this is my first time coming to this farm, and when I heard from Ned that he has a high pH, I was like, no, your soil is well weathered, the red high iron soil. You should have lower pH, but because of the history of adding that stones over time, that's actually what's pushing the pH up. So I would say it depends on your condition. Definitely do some soil analysis to make sure what you have and then work from there.
And that's pretty much when it comes to farming, right? You have a question about farming, and then it's like the answer is it depends.
That's a good answer for anything.
Exactly, especially in Hawaii. As we know, like island to island, valley to valley, things are so different, and even farm to farm because of the historical context that comes behind it. You know, so there's never a one-fits-all solution. So I think, you know, biochar in some instances are a great application, but this might not be as always the ideal situation for everyone. So I think it's just like, as a farmer, like this, you know, there's a lot of information coming at you at all times, you know, whether it's online, through books, through people. It's just making sure that whatever you are applying to your situation on your farm, that you really do it, start small and then scale it from there if you see that it's effective, right? It's much easier to like try it in a small area than to do it to your whole farm and then be like, oh no, that actually doesn't work for me, even though it worked for my neighbor or for the guys on the east side of the island and I'm on the dry side. So it's just having that context is so important, and this like informing yourself.
With a control plot right next to it or something.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
That's important. Because sometimes people do things one time and they get results and they just conclude it's from what they did. And without the control plot, then you don't really know for sure.
Absolutely. Or just work with your extension service and have them do it for you. That's what they're really good at. All right, Ned, I want to...
So this was a grant from Farmers Union to some program. I'm not sure what it was. But
It was Climate Smart.
originally I was attracted to the base here. Basically, it's an expandable farm tool. Basically, you could put. I think they were using it in California greenhouses a lot for spreading fertilizers, or you could use it as a platform where you're picking or laying on it and weeding or all sorts of stuff. And it has a autonomous potential if you were regular enough and could figure all that out, right? But once it has the spreader on here, it's kind of stuck at a machine like this. And I would say, you know, between all this, you got probably 25 grand into it here and all that stuff. So it's a big deal. But we can also put, I can put a 100-gallon tank on here and fill it with fish emulsion or seaweed, and just do a drench down a bed, or various stuff like that. So we've been compost, and now I'm going to do a little biochar on a field down here. Maybe while we're going down there, we'll stop at a compost pile, and Lance could talk about his thing there.
All right, you guys want to clear the way so we can let the machine lead the way?
It's been
top speed of.
I don't want to interrupt. I want to hire that out.
That's a process. You got to keep up. Hard work. I think.
But it wasn't the nematodes. It was, you know, you can open it up. There's millions of termites in each tree.
Wow.
Wasn't there some good disco song called Steam Heat or something?
But that's
All right, let's listen up to Ned and Len, please.
you know, we started on a pile there, just vegetable refuse, a few stuff I'm bringing in from my flail mower and stuff like that. And eventually, a couple months, it ends up here, then it ends up here, then maybe I'll do another one over there. Let's see. What you get with the net program through, let's see, Malama Kauai. I guess this net came from Malama Kauai. And you can see some beetles trying to get in here. Oh, yeah.
Are you going to kill them?
They're
They already got choked out.
Yeah, they just did.
Put them in a full Nelson.
So I'll let Lance take it over here just to see what
Oh, wow.
Absolutely.
But look at this is amazing.
Well, first off, thanks for having me.
Oh, I haven't heard of this
You know, express deep gratitude to the Hawaii Farmers Union.
Well, yeah, killing the beetles.
To Natalie and Jenny,
Quiet,
especially
please.
Nat and Martha.
Yes.
One, hosting this, but also for being the first farm to give me an opportunity. And my first opportunity was at a pile that they had in the front. And what I do, I have a 3-step process for eliminating the rhinoceros beetle here. First step is canine detection. So I've trained 2 of my dogs to be able to sniff out larvae. They even stepped it up now, they can detect beetles. I've done, really good. I'm very particular about things. As you get to know me, you'll realize that I'm very anal about a lot of things. So I've been working with them on all types of, breeding sites, whether it be, mulch pile like this, whether it be frond waste, compost. I mean, logs, you have it. These things are everywhere. So I've been training the dogs to, pretty extensively, and they've been really good at, alerting me and allowing me to know that they're there. And then I confirm it by digging, just to make sure that they are there. And then once we identify a pile is hot, we go about setting up a time to steam. So step 2 would be a steam treatment. And the first time that I came here at Moa Organica, it was the first time I got my machine. I was so excited to use it. I wanted to unveil it with the community. It's like I wanted to share my toy with everybody. And so again, I'm extremely grateful to have been able to do that. And what we did the first time was we put 1 steam hose into the pile and we tarped it. And we tarped it up and we fired that thing up, steam everywhere. We were all excited. And we steamed it for about an hour and a half-ish. We started around 3:34. We were kind of later in the day. And what I realized once we took the tarp off, that there were dry pockets within the pile, right? So for those that don't really know much about, the CRB and the larvae, where they usually are in the pile, they're going to be in the coolest part of the pile, especially if it's compost. The middle of it's really hot, so you're really going to find them around the outside, on the bottom, avoiding that hot heat in the middle. So what I realized is we weren't getting the bottom hot enough fast enough, right? So everything that was up, once there was heat on their butt, they moved really fast, and got straight to where it was cool. So when we unveiled it and we dug, the part that we dug was like no steam even touched it. So these things were just squirming. And, I was kind of like, how is that possible? It really didn't make sense to me. But what I did was, we knew that the top of the pile was hot. So the top of the pile, once we put a laser on it, was about 147 degrees. It was exactly 147 degrees. And we took about 3 grubs and we just put them on top of the pile, just to let them sit there. Within a minute and a half, they were dead. Right? So that let me know, I learned something. I learned that they can't survive in 140 degrees, give or take. Right? So the following day, I had a demonstration at the golf course in Wailua, which is kind of ground zero here, as you can see whenever you come in. And what I did was I angled the steam hose down to literally just target the bottom. I wanted to make the bottom of the pile the hottest part of the pile. And we used both the steam hoses, so the machine has 2. We only used 1 here. So we used 1 here, 1 from the side. We angled it down, we tarped it, and we were able to be successful by eradicating all the beetles and the larvae in the pile. But I wanted to be more effective than that, right? Because I think that there's a number of use cases for the machine, and there's a bunch of different ways to use it to be more effective. So I decided that I was going to use Schedule 40 steel, and I was going to, I've drilled a bunch of holes in it, right? So it's a pretty cool looking apparatus. But what I do is I lay it at the bottom of the pile. So this would probably be 15 feet maybe, just eyeballing it, maybe a little longer than that. But we would push the pipe through the bottom of the pile with, a tractor, mini excavator, what have you. And we would run them both the length of this pile. So we'd have one here, and we'd have one here, and it's completely on the bottom. We cap the ends of it. And once we fire up the machine, the steam is coming out at high pressure, 360 around the pipe, and it's coming out so high that it's actually penetrating the soil. So we did that and we had success. So I eventually, I dug a pile up with an excavator, and I wanted to see how deep down the actual moisture was from the stream, right? Because these things can actually burrow and get down there pretty quick. And what we realized is that with about 2 hours of steaming, kind of what we do, we try to get it up to about 160, 165. The good stuff can survive up to 180-ish. So we don't want to get too close to that to be able to, keep the integrity of the good microbiomes in the soil. And we realized that we were able to penetrate 8 inches below the ground with the pipe on the ground wide open. So essentially we cut off their exit. They couldn't go anywhere after that. If we started it and they were at the bottom, they were cooked. They were higher up in the pile. They naturally went down, and then they realized it's too hot. They went up. Eventually the top gets really hot, and then usually when we're digging through, they cooked at the bottom, just cooked in the middle for the ones that were the top, and figured out, and they went to the middle and they just died. So that has been very successful for us as far as how we've been able to treat the piles. Yeah.
Do you have holes in those steel pipes on the sides?
Yes, I have them
So it's
360 around.
perforated
It's completely around. We have them 6 inches apart, and we have 8 holes in a circle every 6 inches along the pipe. So the whole thing is literally, we're excluding it. And then, so what we do, we can also, the system that we have is actually effective because it doesn't matter how long the pile is, right? The tarp that we have is 100 feet by 24 feet wide. So it's not necessarily advantageous for us now until we get another type of tarp to sustain it, but about the height, we can go as long as we want. I would try to keep it around 30, 40 feet. And I say that because the pipes that we have are 10 feet. So we put it through, stop here, add a cup, add 10 more feet, and we can just push the length of the pile. So that's been what we've been able to do. And we've had a lot of success because the bottom gets super hot really fast. They have no way out. If they're above, they're gone. If they were at the bottom and they try to run, especially the dark, this hard ground, it's going to take them a while to get through it. So by the time they even think that they got a chance to get away, we got it. So that was, something that I was very excited about. And we've had a lot of recent success with it. And then another big part of, what we want to do is to make sure that these things don't come back, right? Or we don't want them to actually be able to turn into adults, right? So for the people who haven't really seen what they do to mulch piles, they break these things down impeccably. Like if you have a pile that's loaded with them and you dig through it and you see exactly where they are, it's black gold. So they're literally breaking down your pile to perfection while they're here. So our rationale behind it, especially for people who actually use the mulch, who actually need it, farmers, very important part of the operation, is we would say we steam this pile today, right? I would want to come back in 3 months and re-steam it, right? This net is only showing us the ones that got caught. They can chew through these things. I've seen piles that are completely covered where they're still in here, and they weren't new beetles. You can see when a beetle actually hatched from a pupae state. You can tell if it's an older beetle or a new one. The new ones that come out are very shiny. The ones that just come out of their pupae state, they look like patent lead, like they just got oiled down, so they're very, very shiny. The more older ones that are a little bit more rugged, you can kind of see that they've blown into a bunch of stuff. They look kind of rough. But
are you saying that they're dropping eggs through the net even if the adults can't get through
I don't think
there?
they're dropping eggs through it. I think they're going through the net in certain parts of it. So, I mean, they're putting holes in trees. So I think, a single net will, they can kind of get through that. We're going to catch a lot of them. But if you're able to double over the net like this, now we're making it difficult. I don't think they can get through this because their feet have those little spikes on it, and that's where they're getting caught. A lot of them are getting caught because their feet get stuck and they can't push. So they're strong enough to push through this with their head. Like if you ever held one in your hand, you can't hold them. They're just going. You can't stop them. And when I'm trying to hold and show it to you, it's going to crawl out of my grip. I'm trying to squeeze it and not try to crush it, right? So if they actually have their propulsion, which is those strong legs of theirs, they'll bust through these things. But the type that when you look at them, a lot of them get stuck because these. Oh, his head's off. Which is great. I just ripped his head off. But the front, this part of my shit. So these front parts you can see, you guys can come in really quickly. So these are the parts that are really starting to get stuck. This is the part that they use to rip through, you know, a lot of these trees. So this is the part that's kind of getting stuck. And this is the part that actually gives them the strength to move forward. When you're holding them, this is the part that's moving your hand. You can't hold them back. These things are little, they can go. So when you have that doubled over net, they really don't have a chance because they're going to get stuck. One layer over it, it'll work. 2 layers over it, I don't think they have a chance. You know. But with that said, you know, while these larvae are in these piles, we're allowing them to do what they're actually really good at, which is breaking down our compost. Nice. Right? If they use it, they can make it faster. You know, it's just a matter of not letting them get to adulthood. And I think that every 3 months coming by for the maintenance of it, to be able to make sure that, hey, you got 3 months of free service out of these things, and now we got to take them out. You know, I think that's the way, because I think we have to figure out how to live with these things, right? Until they come up with some type of, you know, chemical agent or whatever they want to do to, you know, figure this thing out. Until then, we have to figure out how to live with them, but also not allow them to ruin a lot of people's life's work. You know, recently I saw some in a papaya tree. They ate the bottom of the papaya tree. They worked their way up in the shoot of the tree, which is kind of like a PVC pipe. Yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody's seen them like that. They were ripping through that whole thing, you know, but the bottom is very fibrous, kind of like a coconut tree a little bit. It's very fibery at like the base of the tree. I didn't know that. I thought it was PVC all the way through. But once they dug through it, I saw they laid eggs. There was larvae all throughout it. So they're gonna, they have a plethora of things that they can go for here. So these mulch piles, they want them, right? But we got something for them, you know. So sorry that was long-winded. I'm very passionate about the work, especially now that I see that it works. And I wanted to be able to, you know, offer something especially to the farmers here, especially members of the Farmers Union. So I spoke very intensely with Natalie and Annie about, you know, a way that I can, you know, help support the Farmers Union and, you know, with the services that we have. And we have an exclusive partnership with the union, and we're going to have a member exclusive offer. So the member rate will be $500 a day plus fuel. And a standard price, you know, we charge by the cubic yard, right? So we measure the pile by cubic yard and we charge $50 a cubic yard. Farmers have a lot of mulch, $50 a cubic yard can get kind of wild, you know. So it's $500 a day, and you have us from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and we'll steam as many piles as we can in that day for you. A typical pile, let's just say something this size, with the way that our system is set up, maybe an hour and a half. 2 hours, if, you know, depending, but I would say no more than 2 hours a pile, you know, just to make sure that we're thorough and make sure these things, because I like to check afterwards. If those things ain't dead, when I'm firing the machine back up, we're going to kill them. So it'll be that. And as far as, you know, the onboarding part of it, we like to keep record of a lot of these things, right? I want to make sure that we have our own record-keeping system of where these things are, you know, treatment schedules, you know, how many pile, or how, you know, there's a lot of, you know, details that go into this that we can all, you know, have access to, right? I make sure that everyone has that, you know, a report of everything that we've done on your property. You know, fuel burn is calculated by the amount of time that the machine is running, you know, and I know how many gallons of water the machine blows by an hour, so you know exactly how much water was used. So everything is fully transparent. There's no surprises. If you have any questions about anything, I'm one of the easiest people to talk to. But this is something that, you know, I really want to offer to everyone, because I want everyone to be able to have a solution that works instantly, right? Doing all this stuff, you know, to our trees and all that, we have to wait, you know. After 2 hours, we can dig through that thing, everything's done, you know, and now you have peace of mind that you can use that wherever you want to put it. You want to spread it on your property, use it. You're not worried about spreading eggs, larvae, or beetles anywhere. So I'll hand these out just for people to have, you know, an understanding of what this is. I printed these out the other day. But again, I wanted to thank everybody for allowing me to be here, allowing me to be of service to the community. And if anyone has any questions, I'm open for.
Did I understood good that it's $500 per day plus $50 per yard of a compost?
No, there's no $50 a yard. I was just giving you an example of what I charge away from the membership fee.
I see.
It's $500
Yeah,
a day
okay.
plus fuel.
Okay,
and to give you an idea of the fuel cost, right? Because my machine runs on diesel. So from 9 to 4, that's 7 hours, but we're not going to be able to steam 7 hours. We have setup, we got breakdowns, so let's just say a maximum of 6 hours of steaming. That would be around $190 of diesel fuel, and that's me taking that long ride to Lihue to get the one at the Shell station. If y'all know, you know, $5 and what is it, 24 cents or something like that. If you stay here, it's $6 and something. So I'm giving you the price. I have no problem driving all the way over to get the right price. So it would be a maximum of $190 that would be attached to you to that day. If you only got 1 or 2 piles, I'm probably only going to steam 3-4 hours, right? So you're not looking at that max number. 6 hours is the maximum amount of fuel burn that I will have in a day, just so that you have an idea of like what it is. I'm not giving you any surprise prices. The max that it could be is $690 if we go in full day. And if we're at the close to 4 o'clock and we still got an extra hour on the thing, I'm going to honor my 4 o'clock, right? I'm not charging past 4 o'clock, right? But I'm not going to start a new pile at 3:45, right? So if we start at 2 and it goes over, then I have no problem honoring that. But just wanted to make sure that this was available to the community, and I hope people use it because I'm really excited with the results.
More questions, Lance?
Lance,
Yes.
so an idea I'm having too is, like I have a screen house that's been in production for over a dozen years or something like that, and maybe I'm thinking, okay, for a reset to the whole thing, clean up all the nematodes, get all the nut grass out of there.
Yep.
You could also use that system to steam that whole place, and that would probably be well worth it.
Absolutely. That's actually what a lot of the farmers use it for in the Northeast. Well, across the world, but I know the Northeast because I'm from New York, so I met a lot of people from Rutgers who actually are farmers. Since I moved here, I was like, let me reach out to everybody that I know that's a farmer and ask questions, and I was very curious on what they were using the steam machine for, and a lot of them use it for greenhouses, right? The greenhouses, they're killing all the nematodes, they're killing, basically there was a study that I believe it was at Rutgers University where they
the temperature, are you at about 170? And
I would try to keep it between 160 and 170, and I do that just because, I confirmed that 145 actually takes them out, but just in case, I haven't done a control on the beetle, right? So at 165, I've had dead beetles in the pile. I don't want to just hit 145, all the larvae are dead, but the beetle is still alive. So I've had success at 160, 165, where beetles are in the pile and they're dead. So it would take a little bit more control, for me to be able to, isolate what temperature, they would die at. But
All right, I know we got lots more questions, but it's 10 to 3. I really wanted to give Ned a few more minutes here to show off his machine, and then we can sort of gather back over there. We don't have to leave. We can hang out and talk story and ask more questions, but I just want to keep us rolling here, guys. Thank you.
There's a lot of applications. Yeah. Of course, using strips of fiber of weed mat with direct seeded in on the outsides to see if that'll cut down on.
How do you avoid all those little tiny plastic shreds that come off the edges of those
Blowtorch. Blowtorch. Cut it with a blowtorch next time. Rather than a knife, you blowtorch it and then it melts that edge and then it won't unravel.
Yeah, I have a better idea than blowtorch. Get an electric soldering gun with that flat tip, and you can just cut all the way down and it'll seal off all those things.
The thing is to cut it in the roll, right? So how do you cut it?
Well, then you need a generator and an extension.
Yeah, exactly. That's why a blowtorch is a little
But the blowtorch wrinkles it up a little bit.
Okay, so I don't know if who has old bikes sitting around their property, but this has been one of the most useful implements we've ever made here. Basically, so you got a bunch of seeding flats. You want to get out to the field.
I love it.
You know, stack them on there. Just get out there. It really works well.
2 bikes.
You know, we had to tweak it here and there, and you know, we had
Oh, that is so cool. I love it.
we had you know, a couple of different versions. You think this is going to work, but no. But eventually, we came up with something that we really like. And the other thing. 16
I love those flats. You got just 10 of them or something. And just the best, you know.
So, if you're going to get into, I mean, we grow a lot of plants. We're not very sophisticated about it, but you know, I hardly recommend going to what they call wind strips. Never Sink Farms have these guys. We found a bunch of 72s on island, but recently we got a bunch of 128s, and we even have some 200s somewhere. So
No bottom?
no bottom. You just, you know,
So it kind of like air prunes?
air prunes, and they're tough. And you know, instead of having to throw these softies out every once in a while. It's been in 72s. That's too big. You want sometimes quiet irrigation. What I like about it, it's fine. It has fines, and it doesn't have these big chunks like some of the other ones. And it's organic. So it's expensive. It's like almost $50-$60 a bale. But
What kind is this one?
this is Sunshine number 5. Certified organic.
How nice is please come to talk to me. Yeah.
The 128, so you can get, you know, they can fill their root ball fast, and you can get them out there. So a lot of times we're waiting for these to be, you know, fill up their root zone here. So you want to try to figure out the right size for the right plant. 72s are great for broccoli and cauliflower and stuff like that, where you want a sturdy plant.
What do you use the 200s for? Scallions?
Yeah, onions, I think. Yeah, stuff like that. So anyway, we'll go this way. Because we shouldn't be trying to rush it. Doesn't matter to me. So this is one of my essential tools. We'll see it later, but this is a collection flail mower. So I can just mow the field and dump it wherever I want it. I have as much mulch as I can. I can deal with my my prunings and my mango orchards. You know, anything under 3 inches, it'll just chop it up to a size that you can use it, compost it, mulch with it, whatever. You know, it takes some power, but you know, if you ever get into that stage, yeah, I could have somebody full-time just doing organic matter, right? Tractor if I wanted to. Could. I had somebody I could trust to do it. Really.
Perfect. We'll get you a little box. Seriously, humanoids, they're Teslas, 10 grand. They can walk on their hands, man. They can drive a tractor.
Okay.
Yeah. Put a light on it, open 24/7.
So anyway, this is, if you want to build a lot of compost quick, you know, this is a good way to do it. But you need, you know, you need a tractor, you need whatever.
I mean,
think it's called a compost auger.
Yeah. The central thing to my farm has been the ripper, the slipper imp. This is like an Australian tool. I bought it from Arkansas. So, you know, all my tree rows I ripped down, you know, so you get a nice root situation. If you're using a rototiller in the garden, you know, get down there, loosen it up deep. It really makes a difference, I think. You know, I've been toying with, how do I get rid of this rototiller? You know, this worm chopper thing.
Yeah.
And I still don't have the answer to that. You know, I have a field cultivator. A problem with a lot of these other ones, especially if you're in the vegetable production, is just getting a fine enough bed where you can direct seed if you need to, or transplant into. A lot of times, I've done trying to use this machine here so I have 2 planting rows within a rough bed and stuff like that. But again, if it's still rough, coming back with the first cultivation with hand tools is difficult, or with a wheel hoe or whatever like that. So, you know, tooling systems, I'm not really sure yet. This year I bought a system here, which was where you can adjust all sorts of things. I guess the guy who puts them together is a blueberry farmer or a strawberry farmer, but for instance, for sweet potatoes you could hill up, or if you're doing a 3-row vegetable crop you can put cultivators in the middle and get your sides and stuff like that. But
have you ever done like a spader?
What's that?
A spader? It's like to switch out your rototiller?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've seen them.
But that's what they say is like the rototillers have like that circular motion, right? And cut things up. But a spader creates that fine seed bed, but it's not flipping your soil, and it's not creating that hard pan bottom, and it doesn't, because it's not rotating, it's not chopping as much.
I would think that would do the same. I would think that would do the same as you're talking about the discs.
Well, again,
like instead of creating a hard pan, it's slicing.
But it won't create. Does it create the nice
fine
seed bed?
soil? Right.
This? Well,
the back thing.
These spider wheels, it can do pretty good.
Yeah.
But I'm still playing around with systems. I don't, you know, the problem is when it comes down to it, the rototiller is so easy sometimes, and it gets your incorporation and fertilizer and stuff like that.
I think a lot of people like the whole no-till thing. It's very controversial when it comes into organic farming, because like no-till is like designed. It was like really for like large-scale like grain farming, right? It's not for like diversified vegetables. You sort of need that soil disturbance for vegetables to grow. So it's really hard if you want to get away from like tilling in for vegetable production, because the plants actually want that. And you, like Ned was saying, to like create that clean bed to plant into, like not being able to till, if you don't till it beforehand and then you plant your seeds and you haven't killed those little weeds already, you're gonna be playing catch up from day one, versus if it's like nice and clean, like tilled. I think the real strategy as a farmer is not going no-till, it's going minimal till. It's like hey, you're not going to be able, as a vegetable farmer, you're not going to be able to eliminate no-tilling completely, but it's like how can you strategize and lessen that impact. So rather than doing it 5 times, how can you do it like 2 times or 3 times, and then you're already moving in the right direction. But you know, also another like thing with no-till, a lot of these large-scale ag that are doing it, and you hear about it, the reason they can do it is because they're blasting with glyphosate. You know, this is like the little dirty secret that you don't hear about, is like, they're not certified organic, they're not tilling it, so they're not releasing that you know, the carbon, and they're not disturbing it. But the way they do that is because they spray it with glyphosate before reseeding. So that's sort of the other side of it. So it's like, is it really helping our soil health overall, even if we're not tilling? What's worse, glyphosate or tilling?
Ellie Coleman's approach is interesting, where he's growing, this is in Maine, so he's growing a cover crop through a whole year cycle basically. So it's really a lot of organic matter. And backing up with a flail mower as close as you can, so you're leaving most of the root system in there. You know, and a lot of organic matter on top, and then tilling very shallow. But you still have the root system below to have broken up that hard pan, or so there's a lot of options there, and you know, I don't know what to do.
Like I said, context, right? Yeah. Valley to valley, island to island, farm to farm.
I know we're getting late. If anybody wants to go see the biochar burn, and we can look at that real quick. Let's do that, and then
I love it.
Hi guys! High five. Hi! Hello. So this is farm life. Ow!
it's basically
Ring of fire.
bolted. It's a ring. It has 2 layers. You exclude the oxygen getting in at the bottom, and just the way you start a fire on the bottom, and then you just keep adding, and the oxygen exclusion, somehow the air currents keep, you got combustion on top, but underneath it's just, you know, it's just super red, hot, low. So, you know, this pile I probably had maybe 10, a dozen loads of firewood that it went into this pile. And you burn it all, you know, probably 4 or 5 hours. And at some point, then you douse it with water. It takes a lot of water, so you have to do it in air water. And this is what you come out with. You know, this is a bunch of prunings from, you know, it could be 10 years old or whatever. These are pieces that are too big. You need an agricultural burn permit to be legal, or else, you know, maybe have some breadfruit that you're kind of cooking on the side. But you know, what was surprising me is all this week I was waiting for, you're supposed to report to the police and the fire station kind of stuff. And it was no burn days for all the beginning of the week here for days and days, and I don't. It seems like when there's more of a Kona wind or something, then they don't let you burn. But once the trade winds come, you can burn. So. Anyway, so you can unbolt it, you know, and then get rid of it. I mean, you know, get it to the side. And what I'll do next, here's the collection mower that I was doing the mulch with, right? So I can mow this. It'll just break it up into fines or chunks and whatever. I can dump it on this is my green waste pile, green waste compost from the neighbors over here. And I'll try this situation for inoculation next time. I'll mix the volumes and maybe take some of the liquid and just try that system and see what happens.
Yeah.
So.
I think that's great.
Again, you know, there's the pH question, there's the inoculation question, and a lot of it is just doing trials and just seeing if it's working. But, you know, I just have if you have an orchard, you're going to have a super abundance of wood eventually. It just adds up. be able to add that fertility to your garden. Would be great.
Huge.
And then what was the percent, was it 2%? What was the ratio of the biochar that can be put in there?
Well, he was
2% or
Zambra.
2% soil.
2% of soil weight.
2% of
weight.
That's
soil
equal
weight.
to about 5 tons per acre.
2%
So soil weight is the way we measure the soil weight is we take a square foot, we dig 6-inch depth, we take that soil, weigh it, multiply by the bulk density of that soil. Whatever is the weight, you scale up to 43560. That's how many square foot in an acre. And then 2% of that, roughly 5 tons. We did the trial on 0, 2, and 4%. That's 0, 5, and 10 tons per acre. The 5 and 10 were better than 0, but then the 5 was better than the 10.
Were you doing inoculation on your charcoal too?
We do inoculate, and recently we had a trial on soil only, biochar only, inoculated biochar, charged biochar, and charged and inoculated together. And we found that the inoculation and the charging doing better. Although it was in a post trial, and now we are moving into the field. Because the truth is, yes, we always hear about charge and inoculate, but do we really need it? Because technically when you add the biochar into the soil, it gets inoculated and charged through the soil. But then what we did, let's start early, let's see if we can give it something, kickstart the process, and then add it into the soil to see if the benefits comes faster. So that's the idea behind it.
So what's the charging versus inoculating? Are you talking about
Nutrient and biology. That's the difference between them. You charge with the nutrient, you inoculate with biology, and then you inoculate and charge with it.
So my understanding is that you don't ever want to use it without charging and
It's great. I'm glad
because
he's doing it.
it's going to pull your nutrients out of your field, right?
No. It depends. If you go above the rate, yes, there will be holding no matter what. Because also when you inoculate, you are not saturating. If you saturate, you will not be able to apply it because you have to add lots of stuff with it. You add only just to kickstart the process. The idea is just you give it something so when you add it doesn't hold on everything because it already has something. Biology, for example, you already start building the biology 3-4 days in a pile, then you start applying it. Then when it goes into the soil, you add the organic and and stuff, it kickstarts the process very faster. That's the idea behind it. We're not saturating, we are kickstart the process. As far as if you add over, yes, there will be holding that's charged, inoculated or not. Because I did some trials without charging and inoculation. I added the recommended rates for fertilizers, there was no issue. I charge and inoculated right now, I'm seeing better benefits, and I'm going to go into the field to confirm. Now, for the fire issues, we found some small system. What they did, they used the metal sheets similar to this materials, and they made them like a square, and then 2 big pieces together as a lid. You are letting little bit space for the oxygen because that's what you need. Technically, the space in between here, that's for the oxygen. Providing little bit of oxygen for the continuation of the process. Not too much of it, but just little bit. If you add, technically you are covering it in a square that's covered from the top, you are reducing the chance of the fire as well. To fire department issues. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Technically, if there's a chimney on whatever you're doing, there's no agricultural.
There's two. We are. So I have a project. The idea behind it is to get the farmers to adopt on a small scale, take those invasive species, reclaim the land, make something good out of it, push it back again to the soil. We are using 55-gallon steel drums. That's with a chimney. The other one was a bit bigger, smaller than this one, but a bit bigger. Was technically just double metal sheets in a square, and then on top 2 pieces together were welded, and then with handles also welded to it, so you can push it, add it and remove it, reduce the oxygen, and also that open flame, because we don't want too much oxygen to go into the process. You want carbon, you don't want ash. Good biochar, 80% carbon. Pure carbon, has like 6, 7, 5% ash only. You don't want too much ash.
And what's wrong with ash?
Sorry?
Why ash is no good?
You want, as a biochar, you want the surface area. The ash, technically, everything been burned through completely to the basic of it. You don't want that. You want the pure carbon of it. Because the carbon, that's the carbon sequestration you're putting back into the soil. It's the surface area for the biology, surface area for the nutrient and water to hold into.
But wouldn't ash be good fertilizer for as a potassium?
Potassium is different. Now, if you are using the wood that is rich with potassium, you will end up with a biochar rich with potassium. But that's different. Yeah. Ash, as an ash itself, you can still add it. It's technically organic matter that's been burned through, but you may end up with some clogging of the soil porous, and technically you're not getting really good benefits out of it as expected from the biochar. Now that's the difference.
I understand that biochar is good for the texture. What I'm saying is that wouldn't the ash be good as a potassium fertilizer?
No, that's what I'm saying. If the wood you are using, the organic waste you are using, because
yes.
where is the potassium is going to come from?
From the wood.
If it is rich with potassium.
Well, isn't all the wood naturally rich on potassium?
It varies. It's the same thing when you are using, for example, leguminous plants. They will be rich with nitrogen sometimes because they have that nitrogen fixation. So it varies. So it depends on the source of the organic waste that you use to make the biochar out of.
I thought all the wood has some potassium in it,
But
being a wood.
Is it enough to consider it as you are adding fertilizer as an amount or not?
Well, it came out of that soil, it's going back.
I understand.
It's the potassium that's returning to the soil. Yeah,
I think what you're trying to say is when you've got that wood in there, you've got the potassium all there anyway. You just don't want to lose the carbon that you're trying to put in. You're trying to keep as much of the carbon as
potassium
possible.
is one of them that is going to stick around.
Yes, yes.
It's not going to burn through. So you will add, you have biochar that's rich with potassium.
Right.
It depends on the source of the materials you are using.
Right, but I understand what you're saying, is that you're saying, why burn too much of the carbon and just end up with this ash? Because the whole purpose of this is to reduce that carbon.
You need the carbon.
Yeah, so you want as much as possible of the carbon. And so the ash you can add later as a side issue. And it's already there. The potassium in the ash is already there in the wood, so you're not getting any extra. It's just already there. Oh, you're losing the carbon that got burned up.
You want that carbon.
Yeah.
Put back again to the soil.
Yeah. How's ironwood? How's ironwood?
I am really not sure about that. I never used it actually to make biochar out of it. We're mostly focusing on the invasive species. Okay. Because we're hitting two things at the same time. We're taking those invasive species, helping in the eradication, doing something good out of them. Yes. Altesia, Leucaena, all those ones. Strawberry guava. You want less smoke. If the process is correct, you are going to have less smoke.
Right. So if it smokes, you need to put more fuel, or when it smokes, put water.
All right, everybody. I just want to, before we start breaking off in our side conversations, I just want to say thank you so much for coming out today. Really appreciate everyone's time. Once again, thank you, Ned and Marta, for hosting. It was wonderful. Thank you for the Kauai chapter and Natalie and Annie for helping coordinate and host, and for the delicious food. Thank you for Ted and Amjad for flying out, and thank you to all of you guys for coming and being a part of this, and thank you Lance for sharing about the CRV and steaming. I hope if today hasn't convinced you to be a member, you will consider it, be a part of the organizations, continue to support the work of the Farmers Union, and join in more events like this. But yeah, stay tuned. We'll be out here again. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Now, sidebar away.
Okay, I guess.
All right.
If we sign up for ladders and soldier fly stuff, then we'll just get an email.
I'm sure the stuff on your body is a chocolate, right?
It's
Yes.
blood. So it's chocolate. To me, it's chocolate.
Yes.